Welcome to Practical Principles. This is Practical Prince. Today we're starting our society segment, or our dive into society. So let's go ahead and pop up our whiteboard and start digging into this. So I think the first thing that came to my mind for discussing this, and maybe that's not big enough. Well, it'll have to do. We'll make a big one here. Imagine two people at different ends of the earth. Oh, this is going to be a tall person. Well, a giant, at least on this earth. And they're just living life, farming or whatever, sustaining themselves. And they're living at opposite ends of this planet. I'm pretty sure we all agree that that wouldn't constitute a society. Like there's no relationship. I mean, they're on the same planet, but their actions are so distanced from each other, there's essentially no interaction going on, apart from a butterfly effect, which you wouldn't be able to trace back, at least not with our power. So we know that this isn't a society, and we'll go ahead and use this little one to mark what we were doing. Looks more like a flag, but oh well. Okay, and now let's clean up. Oh, is that individual lines? That's not what we want. X. Nope, that's not what I want either. Sorry. Oh, well. Oh, well. I don't want to get rid of my circle. Yeah, let's just get rid of the people for now, and we can redo this part. So our next example is going to be neighbors, basically. And we'll just theoretically say that they've come to this scenario living in peace side by side without really interacting. Not sure how. Obviously, there's some acknowledgement of each other's space, each other's existence. But I think even if these two people never spoke, if they were living in the same proximity, I think almost certainly we would say that's part of the same society. But let's stick a dotted line to make it clear that they don't really interact. And now to scale this all down, do I have a thing? Let's see what this does. I don't actually know. Ooh. Can I shrink it though? Doesn't look like it. Tragic. So I'll recreate that. Give us our little earth over here and add our two little people. And so it's interesting, like even though these guys never explicitly form a society, they can implicitly do so. And I think it's going to be more obvious when they do speak. But now this gets our green check, and this gets our red X as far as examples go. Okay. Now let's get rid of. Oh, I hope we're not getting rid of more people. Is there a way to just get rid of some? If only. I don't know why it keeps making me recreate those. Maybe I need to switch tools or something. Anyways, so now I think one scenario I want to explore is when people meet. So this would be like the Pilgrims when they came to America and met the natives. Or you could talk about frontiersmen meeting people. I'm not so familiar with Oriental examples. So, but like, would we say that there is a society of both peoples? Or are these two different societies that collide? Because in the case of the natives and the pilgrims, like there was obviously cooperation leading to Thanksgiving, but I think we would say those are separate societies. They didn't, I guess, living together. Proximity seems to be a key factor. So let's throw some notes over here. Proximity between members, I guess. So then I guess let's consider current day. You've got America. You've got someone who lives in a town with the people in that town, but then that town's part of a state, and that state is part of the country. I think you would say there's an American society, but then obviously there's like the town you grew up in. So that's sort of, I don't know if that, I think that might actually be a counter case. Because, like, you could have people living on opposite sides of that country, but they're still, and they'll never meet each other. Perhaps they never leave their hometowns or their states or something. But I think most people would, at least in this abstract, say they're of the same society, at least the American society. Perhaps not, well, certainly not at the town level. So, proximity seems to have been a hint, but we've got, America breaking that down. So then, is it the rules that they abide by? Because obviously, in the case of these guys living side by side, like there is a respect for each other's territory, property, even if that's not formalized in any sense. Um, there's a certain amount of respect going on there. So would it be um, I'm trying to think of how we can toy with that or stress that. Because now I'm thinking of there's a guy who has become part of multiple lion prides. Um, so in a sense, he joined their society. Um, so I don't know if rules is the important thing, but common understanding, perhaps. Obviously, this is more geared towards human and human interaction, since that's what we're trying to solve. Um, and by common understanding, I think we in part mean respect. Um, yes, what is the difference between understanding and respect? Because respect, you don't infringe, you don't cross that line, whatever that line appears to be, and that line doesn't necessarily need to be a rule. It could be tradition in a sense. Um, yeah, who knows? Who knows? Um, I guess, does this need to be mutual? Do we need mutual respect specifically? And yeah, and I think you get that in the word common. Um, so that seems, I think that might be our key there, because these guys have a common understanding. And these guys, like, there is no understanding because there really is no relationship between them. So, I guess what do we do? Could we observe that? I mean, proximity could be a lead in, but you would have to observe that there's rules or something, which, I mean, you've got scientists who study monkeys and chimpanzees. Um, so, yeah, I think, yeah, this seems to be our key thing. And I guess the question is, do we formalize that? Um, let's go ahead and bold that. That seems to be key. Um, formal rules. So basically, a legal system of some sort. which would be an outgrowth of the common understanding slash respect, or possibly even reinforcing that. Could be. Because I mean, when you make things explicit, um, you take out any uncertainty in learning or inferring those implicit rules. So, so I don't think you need formal rules. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. Like in a household, you might have formal rules, but can you do without? Probably. I mean, the children, depending on how the parents treat them, probably having respect. Um, I mean, having regular dinner time or something, that would be more like a tradition. Um, yeah. Is there a benefit to formalizing? Yeah, I think so. Um, um, laws. First of all, those are pretty sure those are optional. Um, pros, clarity, communicability. Not sure if that's a real word. Let's check real quick. Um, yeah, I think we're good enough. It seems. If someone were to make a word, this would be a fine word to make, so we'll let that slide. Um, so I guess to revisit what I said earlier, it might reinforce. Um, I'm trying to think of how having that externalized, basically, like it makes them understood. You get that clarity. It's easier to communicate what it is. Um, I don't know that it necessarily reinforces itself. Um, though I do want to say that society propagates itself. But yeah, that's interesting. Because obviously, looking back at the case of a household, um, there are definitely some offshoots that never, like you don't have a union or anything. The line, at least from a biological standpoint, doesn't continue. And so society, while it propagates, it can also commit suicide in a sense. I don't know if you can you have a society of one? I mean, implicit in our discussion and coming to this point is that there were multiple other entities like yourself based off of the how you perceive them and categorize them. Um, yeah, I think you're definitely going to have plurality of members. Okay. So then, hmm, I wonder if maybe we want to pause here and then visit formal laws another time. Just because that's going to get a bit hairy, I think. Yeah, I think, yeah, we'll need to stew on that some more. Um, so this might be our next discussion. But I guess so. There's another example I wanted to. Well, do I? So, because it's very similar to the pilgrims and natives scenario. Um, I was thinking of refugees seeking asylum, um, or similar scenarios. But basically, you have this populace, and then you have um, another population that's imposing an order of some sort when they get to the seeking asylum um, of their destination country. And I don't know that you would, because then that's different from the natives, because now you've got those populations very much in the same area, and so I think you do, in a sense, have um, a common understanding, multiple members. Like there are rules, even if it's a strata. Like you're not a citizen yet, so you need to go through this process, and you just can't do whatever. At least that's my uninformed impression of what that would be like. Um, so yeah, that's an interesting. I guess given that it's a temporary society, um, but yeah, that's kind of similar to the America counterexample, where you've got society at multiple levels. Um, because obviously, the more persistent society would be the refugees in their clump, and then whoever is processing them, that group in their clump. Um, random hair, I think, floating around. Um, so I guess we also have the note of um, nested societies. Or I guess we'll indicate they're nestable. Um, and I guess, do we want to say temporary? Because I mean, just looking at world history, you don't have a lot of permanence with any country, nation, for example. So I guess um, there's something to be said about that. Um, and maybe that's taking from the biological nature of its components, uh, the members, us humans, or animals in the lion pride's example. Although I don't know how much those actually have changed over centuries. It's not like that's really documented. Um, so yeah, that's an interesting one. Maybe that's something to visit another time. Um, we'll probably look at laws, but let's make notes. Um, um, oh gosh, what was I just saying? Lion prides, the temporary nature of. Okay, so permanence, 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 permanent. So yeah. Um, IE. And then I guess I'm split on trying to. Let's go ahead and try and explore that biological society, that aspect. Um, so, society. Yeah, let's see. Let's talk about it now. See where we can get. Um, so, it changes naturally as its constituents change. Um, and then would you say push pull on these understandings um, until either it falls apart or it morphs in some way? I want another box. That's a fun topic. We'll go up here for now. Um, biological aspects of society. Changing nature. Potentially terminal. It's not too optimistic putting it like that, but I think that's the right way of putting it. Um, and then I guess you also have societies interacting in those. Yeah, that's very um, interaction between societies. Yeah. Okay. And I don't know that we want to go any further into these. Um, the changing nature is probably the most interesting. If we explore that more, we might understand why it leads to, some would lead to potentially terminal, um, the termination of the society. Um, I guess also, yeah, I mean, these are very related because what some might consider the end of a society might be a rebirth, um, a revolution, for example, um, throwing out the old order and establishing a new one. Um, is that a change in the society, or did a society die and a new one was born? Um, I think I'm inclined towards changing nature rather than potentially terminal, but yeah, I want to put emphasis on that one. That seems the more important element we would want to explore if we came back to that. Because then if we talk about the laws and whatnot and getting into that, we might be interested in how we can avoid um, violent changes or drastic changes, I suppose. Um, presuming, of course, that that's not good for the members, um, even if the outcome is long term beneficial. So, if we can avoid having to go through hard changes like that, um, that might be preferred. Um, and of course, if we can understand how those changes come about, well, then we can consider whether or not we want to try avoiding them or accounting for them in some way. So, okay. But I think that's something we'll come back to. I think the next topic um, is going to be this one, rules and laws, and exploring that a bit. And then after that, we might come back to visit this because, I mean, this might have a play in how we would formulate such things, formalizing those. Okay. I'll put this out on the social medias probably next week before the next session. And I think we'll call that good for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you next time. We've got Talking Tarot Friday, this next Wednesday, of course, and then the Stream State Monday. So feel free to pop in, say hi, and maybe we'll chat. Until then.